All right, so a lot of debate has been going around about the provisional squad of Harambee Stars to the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations being hosted in Egypt. We already know that. And questions about the goalkeeper up front in terms of the striker, and everyone wondering who would possibly be making the final squad and indeed the starting 11. Well, I've tried to rack my brain. I've spoken to journalists, but I thought, you know what, Chiko? What about you actually ask someone who has an authority in this subject? So guess who I decided to get a hold of? None other than the big man himself, former Harambee Stars coach, former Tusker coach, former goalkeeper. Like, he's the perfect person. And also the last man to take us to the Africa Cup of Nations. That's about 15 years ago. All right, so Jacob Ghost Mulee here, and we can take a walk as we talk, Ghost. First and foremost, provisional 30-man squad, your initial thoughts, raw.
I think Minye has made a very good squad, very balanced, and I believe that that is a squad that can go to the second round because when you look at the squad, he has basically maintained the players that he used in the qualifiers, and as a good coach, you don't change much of that, and he has included some players that have shown also good character. Somebody like Were has come in for FC Leopards. He's shown he can change a game, maybe even the last minute. I mean, he has got some brilliance, some individual prowess that he can do things. So I think for me, it's a very balanced side.
All right, Ghost, here's another quick question. You've talked about a very balanced side, but there's an uproar about two keepers who happen to be plying their trades for Kariobangi Sharks. Would you have chosen them?
Well, I wouldn't. I would say clearly that also was something I don't know. Minye tried to explain that he's thinking about the future, right? I accept the future is important. However, you don't have two keepers from one side because we have basically around 34 matches in the season. You can't have interchange of keepers week in, week out. So I think he has denied another keeper an opportunity who has been playing week in, week out because they're all local based from one club. So I don't know what reason Minye did, but I wouldn't have done that.
You wouldn't have done that. Ghost, okay, to be straight with you, kila mtu anasema, you know, hey, and then it's Kariobangi Sharks and that connection to the president of the federation, and you're thinking, yeah, back in your day, we remember Akina Nyamwea and the likes. There was a lot of influence. Let's be real about that. Do you think that could have played a part, the team they're from and who's in charge of the federation?
Chiko, let me tell you one thing. As a coach, I don't believe anybody has any influence on the team selection. I would say before Sebastian Minye came, there could have been a hand in the federation. But after Sebastian Minye took over, I saw his first squad, the players that he was given by Okumbi. Then he came and he is a man of his own brain. I don't think there's any influence from any quarters. I'm looking at that squad. If I was Minye right now, I would pick the same players apart from that goalkeeping issue.
Goalkeeping. Oh, now that you say you pick the same players, Ghost Amesema, by the way, the Storia influence from President Nick Mwendwa, that's all talk. But you have said you would have picked the same players apart from those goalkeeping selections. But here's a question, another issue. Jesse Were, he is banging in goals in Zambia on the continental stage, and then you drop him. For who?
Chiko, let me say...
Masood?
Let me tell you one thing. There are some things that only coaches see.
Okay, fair
As a fan, we are emotional. As journalists, we have the statistics. And as football lovers, we have basic reasoning. But until you go into a coaching class, then you will know why Minye has done what he has done. I respect Were. I congratulate him every day he scores in Zambian League. I've watched him play for the national team. You know the record more than I do. And when you look at Masood Juma versus Were, I don't like to compare two players. However, look at Masood. I remember vividly in Sekafa in Machakos under Paul Put. He was brought in with an injury. He scored the second goal for Harambee Stars. I think
he hasn't been playing goals consistently for a long time.
He's not the first player who hasn't been playing and has been called to a national team. England has just named a team to play in the United Nations. Yeah. Harry Kane has been named. He's been injured for a long time.
Oh, but Ghost, not years. He's not played for too long and not played in a proper game. This is Harry Kane. He's been out, what, a month and a half maybe?
this is Masood. Okay, he has
enough.
done a lot for Harambee Stars, and also he's a quality player. If you watch tactically the game that Kenya played, the last qualifier against Ghana, I think it was a mistake to remove Masood in that game, because when he came out, we didn't have possession up front. We lost all the balls that came. But look at his contribution in 45 minutes. He had the ball, he could hold the ball to wait for the midfielders to come and play. You are looking at a player who can maintain possession at a high level. And this is the national team, for heaven's sake. We are going for a big tournament. So when you try to compare, I understand what Minye is talking about. But for a normal Kenyan, I also understand the Kenyans, because I worked under the late Reinhard Fabish, may God rest his soul in peace. He said Kenya has 50 million coaches, so it has not changed.
It hasn't changed. That's true. I have my own opinions, evaluating the game, and so many other fans out there, as you've said, but we're emotional and coaches think differently. If you were to look at the two names that one could possibly go, Clifton Miheso, Paul Were, pretty much play similar roles, but Clifton Miheso gives us that extra edge, utility. He can play a fullback position also. Who in this squad would you say, apart from Bwire, who the coach already said is unlikely to make it, who would you say could make the final 23?
Very difficult. However, we have some players who have featured in the qualifiers will be in. I think all things staying equal, no injuries, it's going to be a very big decision for me in terms of midfield and attack, because that's where the crux of the matter is. But I think what I've seen about Paul Were, he's a player that, as a coach, you think it's 15 minutes to play, and he's on the bench. He can come in and turn out a game.
Attack the team.
Yeah, he can make an individual decision and go in and maybe make the goal that you are needing in a game. So I don't think Were will miss in that squad. For Clifton Miheso, I know him. He is a utility, as you say, but the competition is deadly, because there is also Ayub Timbe that you have to look at, and then you look at what Johanna has been performing for the side. So that midfield is going to be a very difficult decision for the coach to make.
Ghosts, I'll put you on the spot now, seeing as running out of time here. You're starting 11, considering the 30 players you know. How would you have set up? Because you're the last man to have gone to AfCON. You know what it takes. You know the challenges. So 2 questions. You're starting 11, and then our chances against Algeria, Senegal, and Tanzania getting out of that group. Let's start with your starting 11.
Crazy. Okay, Matasi will retain his position in goal. Then when looking at the back 4, it's a battle of sorts. But I would think Matasi, Aboud on the left if he's fully fit. That's
I know, right?
That central is a bit tricky because I know last time Musa Mohamed played there with Joash. Maybe I would maintain the same team. And then fullback right position, I don't think is still well covered. Okay, Philomen played the first game, but still, I believe, I don't know which other utility player we have in that position. That one I'll pass. Then I'll go into the midfield. Of course, Mugubi will be there. Dennis Odhiambo will be there.
He's been fantastic.
He has won his place and has stayed. Then looking at right and left, I'll go for Timbe, and then I will go for Timbe Johanna, and then Michael Olunga will be there. Then behind Michael, maybe Johanna Omolo.
So you'd play one up front and then pack that midfield?
Yeah, that's the way it is. I mean, I would do a 4-2-3-1 formation. I would think that. So either Johanna plays on the right, and then Timbe on the left or right, and then somebody plays, the other Omolo plays behind Michael Olunga. That could be maybe my starting lineup.
And as a coach, you're going into the Africa Cup of Nations, first games, and you're looking at Algeria, Tanzania, and Senegal. Where do you expect to pick points if you are to make it past the group stage?
Chiko, I would believe that every team has equal strength. The other teams are just good on paper in terms of FIFA rankings, but 90 minutes when the tactics are right, Harambee Stars will rise to the occasion. My take is, I think we can beat Algeria. Tanzania is a difficult nut to crack. However, I believe we can pick 3 points from Algeria or Tanzania and draw with Tanzania. That's 4 points. That's enough to take you to the second stage. By
I like the way you're ignoring Senegal.
No, when you meet Senegal, it's the last game in the group. So if you pick 4 points, you don't need the Senegal game. You already qualified for the knockout stage, and that is what Kenya is looking at.
There we go. Jacob Ghost, the Mulee himself, the man who last took us to the Africa Cup of Nations, sharing his thoughts. Kwa hivyo mpige kelele all you want, understandably so, but he said fans, emotional, and we have our opinions. 50 million coaches, the late Fabish said. Okay, so you and I have our opinions, but that's the provisional squad, and guess what? We will be supporting that team regardless of who's there. Ghost believes we can get out of the group stage with the right tactics. I think so too. I think we can beat Tanzania and also beat Algeria. And then who needs to beat Senegal? It doesn't matter. It's Chiko's take. See you next week.